Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. We're taking your calls all during this program because we're paying tribute to the late John Odlum. Also, we're discussing Independence 2013. Now, a lot of the programming for Independence, the Independence anniversary celebration, have been scaled down to some people's minds. However, the committee has indicated that some of the events have been removed from the calendar this year because we're looking forward to the milestone year, the 35 years of being independent, and that is coming up in 2014. So the usual midnight flag raising ceremony, which was a highlight of the event in years past, will not take place. Other activities have been pushed back so that, or excluded from the program, so that a grander event can take place for the 35th anniversary celebration. And probably some people might disagree. Some people might say, okay, well, everything should be a part of it. But the committee's explanation is that they did not want these very significant aspects of the celebration to be watered down and as a result lose the value, the intrinsic value that they carry, like the flag raising ceremony and some other events. So you can tell us what you think about that and how you plan to celebrate independence. Also, what independence means to you. But remember, the focus of our program this evening is the tribute to Stanley Nicholas John Odlum, former parliamentary representative for Castries South, who passed away yesterday, and he was 76 years old when he died at Victoria Hospital. The family has been receiving a lot of people I know who stopped by, who called to express their sorrow at his passing, and that would be expected for any politician, but especially for a politician of Mr. Odlum's stature and his influence, because he was well loved in his community. He was one who was always in that Castries South community, whether it was Fuasho Hospital Road, Cicero, you know, that Banan area, Capitol Hill, Latorcan, you know, even further, where, you know, people just loved him. You know, he was just so down to earth, as you have heard some of our contributors say this evening. He was down to earth. He was with the people. He was not one who could not be reached easily. And, you know, he would always say something that would break the ice or make you smile, make you laugh even, you know. And he was just that kind of individual. I want to go back also to some of the memories that the SLP had. Of course, they issued a statement, and part of it spoke to his selflessness, and he said that became evident again as he decided during the 2001 to 2006 term that this would be his last, even though his constituents pleaded for it to be otherwise. That's according to the St. Lucia Labour Party release. He was insistent that his time was up, and at that time he was around 70 years old. So I mean, he had reached some good age then, and it was understandable why he would decide to bow out of politics at that point, because you have grands, you have family to take care of, and always been on the road and always taking care of other people's needs. You'd also want time to devote to your family and to pay some attention to your family as well. And Dr. Robert Lewis was the one who succeeded him. We have another call on the line. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Yes, Clinton.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Clinton.
Good evening, sir.
I have known John for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I am 61 years old, and I used to go and watch football on the Marshall Field.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by the goalpost I used to stand. And I know John was playing for Wolves. And John was his Miss Greece. Her car number was number 40. And she was a chain smoker. And at halftime, all of us young boys used to go by where they standing, drinking their little juice and things. And John, you see there, I know him from that time so much that I even followed him in politics.
Mm-hmm.
My mother used to be the one going all by Labour Party meetings. And she was living in South Castries. And up to a day like today, I cannot experience or know that anybody has ever criticized John as a corrupt politician. Now, that's food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
Try and see if you can get somebody to tell you or say that John was a corrupt politician like the politicians of today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that contribution. And yes, food for thought, indeed. And as he has said that there, my mind started running and spinning, and it is true. You could describe many people very many ways, but then, corrupt would not be one of the adjectives that would be leveled at John Odlum, and associated with him in any way, shape or form. So yeah, it is true, and it is remarkable in the age that we live in today, where not only in St. Lucia, mind you, all around the world, people are being sanctioned, they're being disciplined, they're being even punished. Some of them go to jail because of corruption in politics and in handling, the public purse, malfeasance they call it, taking a little share of what does not belong to them. And that can never, that has never been attributed to John Odlum, and I don't think it would ever be, because he was just not that kind of guy. And I was making a point earlier on that, some people enter politics with the idea that once they win, or if they win, then they will get a cabinet post or a seat around that table where government is concerned, the day-to-day operations of government are concerned. But John Odlum, he was not that kind of person, Yes, he would fit in wherever he was called in to fit and to act, but then in terms of craving power and a position, he was never that kind of individual. Even in the Labour Party statement, going back to it, it said that politics was not his first love. He did not set out for a life of politics, but then his convivial nature, the way that he related to people and the way that, he attracted people to himself, was the reason that eventually he chose that path. Being a community development officer and a sports officer with the government, it would have created for him some networks and some liaisons where he would have had to interact with people on a very close basis. As you know, community development officers would be within the communities trying to see how best they could use limited resources to advance the residents of that particular area. And then as a result of that and the work that he did in community development, people said, you know what, we want this individual to represent us. And when you have so many criticisms being leveled at politicians today, when you have so many accusations and allegations being made about politicians today, those such allegations were not made about him, and probably for good reason, because he did not engage in such practice. And it's sad that we immortalize and pay tribute to our heroes, some founding fathers, after they have passed, but it would be nice for us to embark on a program where we pay tribute to people who have made a significant contribution to our democracy and to our development and society in general when they're still alive. And this is something that as media we need to work better at. The Labour Party statement, I'm just trying to get some of the major points from it so that I can share the entire thing with you as we go forward. It said that John was a team player like no other, and following his return to the Labour Party in '97, developed an unshakable bond with the political leader, Dr. Kenny Anthony, which was described as quite remarkable. So a caller to the program earlier said that, you know, there was turmoil, animosity between John and the Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, or Dr. Anthony treated him badly at some point. But according to what the Labour Party is saying, and from the expression of sadness and sorrow from the Prime Minister yesterday, it would suggest that this was not the case, that they were quite fond of each other and they had a very good and strong relationship, a strong bond between the two of them. Now, we talked about his politics, we talked about his community involvement. He was an avid sportsman. One caller said that they remember him playing football. He was part of the Wolves Sports Club, and you know, he would talk about that himself, you know, being part of the sporting fraternity, playing football. And back then, we have a lot of distractions today. So we have the TV and we have the video games, we have the social networks that occupy us. But back then, you know, generations past depended a lot on sports to keep them occupied. And John Odlum, he was no different. A lot of our politicians, all the politicians, would have come through sporting ranks as well. Julian Hunt, the former leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, himself a sportsman playing cricket, and that is why he was so respected, or is still respected region-wide as far as cricket. He had been the president for a few terms before he demitted office just recently. So, you know, sports played an integral part in the development of our democracy, we can see. Just going back on some of his highlights, 23 years as the representative for Castries South, and he was the longest serving parliamentarian for that area. Some people who called Michael Hippolyte said he had known him from 1954 and just had fond memories of John Odlum. As we said, we're taking your calls, we're paying tribute to him, we're also discussing independence. Unfortunately, nobody has called in as yet to discuss independence, which is coming up on Friday. 34 years of independence. Yes, we are still a young nation, but we're adults now and we're growing. Has our democracy emerged to a point where we can say we are truly independent? And what does independence mean? Does it mean that we're no longer colonized? Does it mean that we are independent to think or make up our minds on certain issues? What does that mean? We have another call on the line. Good evening, caller.
Good evening. Because if I'm the first person to really speak about independence,
Okay, great.
to me is so sad. We can discuss everything else under the sun except independence. 34 years, saying that we are having the celebration low-keyed because of 35 being a milestone. Every year you get older, isn't this a milestone? You celebrate your birthday no matter what it is. If you figure 35 is going to be a milestone, you make a bigger issue. You don't downscale 1 year for another. Independence, in my view, is that you are able to literally do what you think is right for you. In terms of the country, you don't have anybody to ask permission. No man is an island. That doesn't mean that you would move according to what is beneficial to you. It doesn't mean that you do have no association. This is a globalized world, so really and truly, we need each other. I mean, you have all the regional blocks, and even if you are independent, you're able to add to a discussion. You're able to make certain decisions. But if you go into some negotiation and you find it doesn't work well for you, with you being independent, you can stand and make that decision. On the other side, that you would just have to bear the consequences for your decision. But in terms of, I mean, I have said it more than once, and I will continue to say it. We don't have to wait for government to do anything, because at the end of the day, we are the government. We are the ones who put those individuals there. If we didn't vote for them, they would not have been there. So you don't have to wait for any particular party, any particular government. We on our own should be able to do what is required. We don't have to wait for the government to say, well, okay, we're going to be doing it in the communities, we're going to implement the communities. The communities should be the ones dictating to the ministers as to what they would like, the assistance that they would need.
So does that mean or suggest to some extent that we are not as independent as we think we are?
Well, in terms of, as I said, in terms of, well, independent, in terms of being nationalistic, in terms of being, what does it mean to be Lucian? You know, I think that is a question we should really address, because I don't think we are patriotic, we are nationalistic. Independence is just another holiday. You know, I don't think anybody put any real significance to independence. What does it mean? You know, and maybe that is something that we could, for the milestone, maybe we can, you know, try and figure out why can other Caribbean countries who might be not as old as we are and are able to celebrate, because persons are making comparisons saying about it is just given to us on a silver platter, we don't fight for it. Well, many other Caribbean countries who in the same boat as we were didn't really fight for it, but yet still they know how to celebrate. Because, I mean, Grenada just had their independence, they had their elections.
That just crossed my mind.
You know, but they are patriotic. Barbados, Dominica, Trinidad. Why not? We are always willing, you know. It doesn't make any sense to reinvent the wheel, so we can just look at our brothers and sisters and figure out why. Why can't we? I mean, people really bash the Bajan saying about how they are proud. But when it comes to independence, they celebrated independence for the whole month, or, you know, there are just many things that we on our own can do, and I don't know how we can really instill that in ourselves. You know, maybe we really have to look at ourselves to see, well, what can we do to make ourselves better? At 34, I don't think we should be really been fishing, or we should have been just you know, putting the icing on the cake, because we have done that so many times. But to me, we still mixing the batter. We are getting there. Sometimes you get a cake, sometimes you get in mixing the batter, the outcome might be a dough boy, not a cake. You know that. I really don't know. But for me, I am extremely patriotic. Okay.
And I'm sure there's some St. Lucians like you as well who are extremely patriotic. So we can't paint everyone with the same broad brush, you know.
Yes, but what as I said, the statement that really hurt me is that the 34 years not a milestone. I think we should really. Maybe I'm not understanding the statement. Maybe we need to.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like if you look at people and their ages, you know that 13 is a milestone, 16 is a milestone, 18, 21 is a milestone, 50 is a milestone. I think 25 is one as well.
Yes.
So you know, so that's what they're looking at. That, you know, 34. What is it? It's just.
I am very sorry. In my humble opinion, I'm just looking at it. Appears to me it is a way of just. It's like an excuse for the celebration that we are having here, that we are not really putting our whole heart into it, because it's, as I said, it's a milestone. We were making a big do this year. This year we having with bells on. We will just have to top up whatever we're doing this year. Do not tell me it is not a milestone. That statement to me is unacceptable.
Okay.
We used to have our celebrations from Nobel laureates. I mean, yes, things happen. Activities are happening. I mean, but what are the activities? Persons who are involved in Nobel laureate week and continue, they would know. But the normal John Brown doesn't know what is happening. So really and truly, as I said, something is wrong somewhere. Maybe there's no communication or it is a perfect time that you have Nobel laureate starting from January. The whole month of February should be, doing something. So
and I agree with you on that point. I mean, the only thing that I see with that is the business community, which factors greatly in the whole independence celebration. You have February 14th, which is a big date for very many people.
Exactly.
And the business community, they capitalize on that. It's a date on which a lot of sales are made because everyone is expressing love and everybody wants to do it tangibly. So they're going out and they're buying stuff. So everywhere is decked in red and white. Now, how do you get the business community and people in general to move away from putting so much emphasis on Valentine's Day on February 14th, which is just a week before independence? Now, and that might be our Achilles heel there, or the hiccup that we have, because we can't say, okay, do away with Valentine's Day because it's such a big thing for the business community and for people in general. And we can't push independence to another date because this is the anniversary of our independence. So there needs to be a way of balancing the two and coming to a workable equilibrium. Now, I was reading a comment on that same point recently, and someone was suggesting that, let's marry it by having the hearts in the colors of the national flag, for example, instead of having the red and white hearts, put them in blue, black, gold and white, and kind of parlay Valentine's with independence, love for country, love for self, love for those who are close to you and those with whom you have intimate relationships and just other loving relationships. So it might be something that can be considered for the future, but we have not capitalized on it so far. So it might be worth looking at for other celebrations and see how it works out in our context.
It's also a lost opportunity. As I guess it's just fair for actually investing in something and find that the general public would not really catch on to that. But on the other hand, I think if the business places, as you said, in terms of all those fabric places, I am maybe give a discount on national colors or something. So even if you have persons might just be using that opportunity, not necessarily for independence, in terms of buying some yellow or blue, whatever fabric, maybe they might need that color fabric for a particular time and use that opportunity to get the discount. So in any case, it's a win-win situation. You win that you're able to market and sell off your fabric, and the individual were able to get their fabric for maybe
discount.
to do an independent outfit
price.
or for whatever else. But
okay.
So I think it's just being brave enough to make the first step, because as you said, we are we are copycats, but I guess nobody wants to really build a catch. They want to just sit back and say, well, let me see how that will catch on, and then maybe use that opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that contribution on independence, our first on our second matter of discussion, area of discussion for this evening. The first of course being a tribute to the late Stanley Nicholas John Odlum. Most people know him as John Odlum, John or John D. So that is what we're doing here this evening. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to talk about John.
Yes. Can you please turn down the volume on your set so that We can hear you a bit better.
Which have you said?
Okay. All right. Please go ahead then.
I want to say something about John Odlum. John Odlum came up to Syria, and that man was a very, very nice man. John Odlum never vexes nobody. Whether you support him, whether you don't support him. John Odlum is not like the politician today. If you don't support them, they vex you. But John Odlum was different. He never find you too local. He never find you too old. He's always there with you. And always have a nice mind. John Odlum, every Christmas, whether you support him or not, he will call you on them and tell you Merry Christmas. That man, I will never forget him. Because he's different to the politician nowadays. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much for that contribution. Very insightful contribution there. Yeah, and someone made a comment sometime earlier this week, yesterday I think it was, and they said, you know, even though he lost an election, you know, he was not bitter, he was not, you know, angry. He did not pass it out and say, okay, you know what, y'all didn't vote for me, I'm not coming to the constituency, whatever. So, you know, a different caliber of individual. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Hi. Hi.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hi.
Okay, that person obviously is not ready to make a contribution on the discussion. As I was saying, you know, there are people who take it to heart when they have not been elected. The people speak through the democratic process, through the ballot box, and say, okay, well, I prefer this person to the other when it comes to election. We'll take a quick break on Newsmaker Live. When we come back, we'll continue with our discussion and your calls. Stay with us.